Hi, and welcome to another episode of A Day in the Life of Mr. Keller. And today I'm going to be starting a four-part series on a tour of a colonial garden. So the garden you're about to see is a project I started. It's a 10-year project, and I'm in year 7. And I was inspired by the gardens in Colonial Williamsburg and the gardens over at Old Sturbridge Village, which are the earlier 1800s gardens. So without further ado, let's go for a walk for the first part of a tour in Colonial Garden. So one of the first things you're going to see is, I'll do a quick pan of the garden. This is my side yard. So I love the woodwork in the Colonial Williamsburg gardens. You're not going to find as much stone. You're going to find that more in Sturbridge Village, but the woodwork and the picket fences are beautiful. One of the cool, and the brickwork too. One of the interesting things you're going to find in a Colonial Garden Williamsburg are these cannonball system fences, and the weight of the cannonball closes the gates behind you. So one of the first things we're going to see are in the garden here, in the lower part is the purple coneflower, echinacea. And this is actually native to the southeastern United States. And it was actually exported to England in the very late 1600s, in 1699. Now it's said to alleviate symptoms of the common cold, and that was used for by the Plains Indians too, and for other ailments. In colonial America, also used for saddle sores on horses. But even today, it's used for the modern cold symptoms to be found in cough drops and in teas. And just the bees love it. It's a great pollinator too for making honey. Okay, over here, this first small bed was just filled with chest-high daisies, but they've been cut back since it's later in August now. But daisies were used in colonial times in colonial gardens as for bouquets, and mainly just for decoration. Another flower I have here in the corners is snapdragons. And snapdragons were one of the earliest mentioned in colonial times, was in Thomas Jefferson in his gardens in Monticello. Okay, as we walk down a path, in Williamsburg, most of their gardens are the English style with dirt paths, or the more formal gardens that have brick paths. But I have sand here, and they're going, I don't have the crust oyster shells, but I've read that they're going away from that in the southern gardens in Williamsburg. So over here, just brilliant all season long, from early spring to late summer, are the marigolds, and they were brought here by the colonists as early as 1672. And they could be so many different things, brewed into a tea for fever, for measles, for jaundice. The juice from the petals was used for toothaches, and in the Plymouth colony, they're using these to dye fabrics with, and still used today to color and flavor cheeses and even margarines. So, and just a tremendous color throughout the whole season. Now over here, just ending their bloom season, this is more of a late spring, early summer, is we have bergamot. Bergamot is also known as Oswego tea. And I'm just coming in here a little bit closer. And bergamot, this was used by the colonists when we were boycotting colonial tea, and the leaves were brewed into a tea, good for colds and cold symptoms too. Okay. Next, we're going to come over to more of the strewing herbs. Okay. Also, just go back to bee balm for a second. Good for fevers too, and colds. Used in soaps and perfumes too. So There's barely anything left of these today. So over here on this bed, we have our garden herbs. And some of these can also be used for seasonings and can be used for something called a strewing herb, where if you have a dirt floor or you have a cobble floor like stone or a brick, very hard to sweep up. One of the things in your kitchen with the different smells in your house with unpleasant smells. Whenever I say a strewing or casting herb, it means something you literally throw on the ground and you walk on. And every time you walk on it, it perfumes the room. So one of the first things we're going to look at is up close is parsley. Parsley, one of the cool things, it's considered unlucky to transplant it. I always thought that was kind of cool. But it's been used since ancient times, and it has been documented that it was used in even the Plymouth Gardens and soups and all types of seasonings. Next up, we have sage. And sage was used by the colonists to brew tea for colds and fevers. But it was also said it was good for heightening your senses and sharpening your memory. And boy, could I use some of that. And it's called the herb of wisdom and mortality. It's kind of neat. English gardens were planted with sage because near the graves, because it was said to lessen the smell of it would lessen your grief. I always thought that was kind of interesting. And in some parts of England, very valuable herb. You would plant another plant in the garden called rue around it to keep toads from getting into your sage. I thought that was an interesting factoid. Okay, and over here we have rosemary. And early in France, was used in the 1600s and grew wild in France. And it's supposed to have the smell, described as having the smell of the sea and pines. But interestingly enough, it's used in the brushing for teeth. You brush your teeth with it, and you use it for oils, for perfume and bathing, and traditionally baked into wedding cakes. Throw it on the floor anytime you rub it or crunch it up. It's just a beautiful smell to it. But it was also a symbol of fidelity, sticking by someone, and it was woven into the wedding bonnets of new brides. And then at the end of your life, mourners that were there at your funeral would each drop a sprig of it onto the top of your casket before your casket was covered with dirt. So, and the last one is thyme here in the garden herbs. And sheep were grazed in fields of thyme, supposedly to sweeten up the meat. It was used in soups and sauces and salads. Also a strewing or casting herb. And it was used in the early 1700s in many different medicines, supposing that it calmed nerves and lessened your nightmares, helped you with that sensitive skin ailment called gout, and earaches and toothaches. Rub it on your teeth and your molars when you had a bad toothache. Still used today in cough drops and to treat hookworms. That sounds pretty nasty. And what I like about it is the legend has it, colonial legend, if you wipe your eyes with thyme, you can then be able to see the magical fairies in the woods around you. So that's kind of a neat thing to see. We're going to go then to over here. This is called yarrow, and this is in the white. I have some yellow left over there too. But yarrow goes all the way back to 1000 BC, and there's writings of it being used for arrow wounds. It helps to slow down bleeding and clots your blood. It has some other cool names to it. Staunch weed, like when you staunch the flow of blood in a wound. Newel foil, nose blood, and sneezewort. I love those names. And this really grows wild as a weed by the roadside and here in the Berkshires too. We're going to end this first part of our tour, and we're going to go over to a bed of lavender. I'll go with the sun here, we can see it better. This is going to go through mid to late summer, and boy do the bees love this blossom. And the colonists use it as an effective oil in soaps, especially for skin parasites. And one of the few homegrown perfumes used in soaps by the colonists. It became so popular, fields of this were grown, and you would get something called a danger money or danger pay if you went and harvested this plant, because of all the stings you would get from the bees. It was said a tea with this was used to help you gain back like lost speech or lost voice, headache remedy too, and used to store. You dry it and you put it with your clothing when you put it away for the year, or to store it to make it smell nice for your linens. And so this is the first part of our 4-part series. Over here, just we'll end up with what's left of a late season strawberry bed. This is just red with wild strawberries and just a nice little apple tree in the middle. But I'll see you for part 2 of touring a colonial garden.